Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning and welcome to Gen Forward Web. I'm Andrew Collins, Sales Manager Specialist for the Auckland Corporate Market for Gen and I'm going to be talking a bit about Forward Web today, as will be three of our speakers. So first of all, welcome to the people who are here physically in Telecom Place. I hope you've had a good breakfast and all feeling very satiated. And also welcome to our webcast viewers as well. I think there's about 350 or so of you have joined today, so welcome. I hope your latte or your long black is ready to go beside you. So BYOD, I think the nub of it was captured about 4 years ago when Scott Adams penned this cartoon of Dilbert. He's trying to sneak his home laptop into the workplace to be more productive, while the nasty arms of IT came along to stop him. And I think that a little bit's changed. Now users are doing it quite openly. But that was basically the guts, I think, of where it all started. It was about 4 years ago. So why is it that basically people will bring these devices in? Well, they just enjoy doing it. We know that Gartner says that by the end of next year, 38% of users will willingly own their own devices in the workplace. And at the same time, 41% of CIOs surveyed believe that their security practice isn't really up to that task or can't respond fast enough. And why is it that people will pay $1,000 for an iPad and $4 for some sort of business productivity app just so they can be more productive in the workplace? It doesn't seem quite right. Surely we're not all that altruistic. Really? Can the data really be right? We know from our Cost Managers survey that we did last year that 71% of users are prepared to pay for a data plan so that they can access their Exchange server and tools remotely. So let's be clear, 71% of users will pay to access company tools on their own iPad or similar device. Why is this? Well, the way that we work has changed. And users are finding new ways of turning the small bits of downtime in their day into productive time. They're grabbing their iPad and flipping it open at the coffee shop and finishing off that document that they did yesterday, adding the exec summary, and then saving it all to the cloud to format later on. And these demands are challenges for how we best serve our people with technology, and our industry has built tools to help. But it's the harmony of these tools combined with process and policy that's really going to enable us to enable new ways of working. And at Gen we call that concept modern workspace. So, we've got three speakers today who are going to be talking to this concept of BYOD, the challenges and pitfalls and the opportunities. The first is Neil Osmond, the Gen Strategy Manager. And Neil's going to talk about what's happening in the market today as well as tomorrow. And he's going to outline the opportunity for us as New Zealand business. Neil Osmond.
Thanks, Andrew. Welcome everybody. Thanks very much for coming along. So here's a good introduction by Andrew to the overall concept of what we're talking about around consumerisation and BYOD. So essentially the way we live and work is changing, and it's having an effect on us as end users, this word consumerisation. And what that's leading to is it's really, if you delve down to it, end users are becoming very critical and demanding of IT. Today's end users, and we can see them sort of coming into our workplace, they're very tech savvy. They don't necessarily understand all the details about how a certain technology works, but they certainly have an expectation around what it will do for them and how they can make it work. And that's really causing some demands and some tension, if you like, in some parts of the IT businesses. And the end users, the second point there, end users are becoming innovators. So what they're doing is they're taking something like a little gadget like this, and they're saying, well, now I can turn this into a productivity tool, a business tool. It's very simple for me to load down an app, as Andrew said, and I can innovate on the fly on a business process without actually asking for permission to do that. And end users are therefore coming to you as an IT team, and they're saying things like, well, I've got my own preference. I can see the range of devices you offer, but I've got my own preference. Thanks very much. I'll use this. And can I have one of those? No. Well, can I get my work applications on my private device? No. Well, okay, then I'll download Dropbox or iCloud, and I'll use that instead. So, that's really causing some tension, isn't it? I'm sure many of you had some of those conversations. I can see a few nods about that. So it's easy, if you like, to put your hands up and say, no, stop, I'm going to ignore that. I've got my set plans, that's noise, we can't have that kind of disruption. But we're finding that the conversations we're having with customers and what we're seeing in the market is that the more common sense approach to that is to say, well, hang on a minute, let's really understand what the potential benefits are and go in with our eyes wide open to the potential risks and see how that can pan out. And the other complication to all of this too is we're probably only about 10 or 15 minutes into the game, if you like, and how this is rolling out. So there's continual change of this revolution or cycle is occurring. So one of the things I just wanted to do as the strategy guy, come up with a strategy picture and just say, here's how we're sort of seeing how this rolling out. Maybe this is just something that you might be able to use as a way of thinking about or considering how this is occurring in your business. And on the axis there, on the x-axis, you can see that IT transformation is really about providing services that are highly relevant or oriented to the needs of an end user. And on the other axis, in terms of business transformation, when we talk about transforming business processes, that's enabling efficiency, agility, and so forth. And then you consider how maybe you've been involved in some projects over the last few years to try and enable that from an IT perspective. So, virtualization was one of those where you could start taking fixed resources and moving into resource pools and more flexibility and better utilization and so forth. And then cloud computing has come along and then added to that in terms of self-service and end-user flexibility. And now we're looking at the mobile as actually being considered now, as that headline says, as a platform for IT. Because if you combine virtualized resources plus the self-service cloud computing aspect, then you now say, well, now I can deliver that in any mobile device. And what's really happening is in the minds of end user is they're making trade-offs on devices like this. That what filled a desktop a decade ago now fits in your pocket. It's got much more capability, and the devices that are combined with cloud services, virtualized infrastructure, are now becoming a platform, as we said. So we can follow this evolution, and then the other concepts that are starting to come along is people saying, well, now I actually have a personal cloud of services that I'm using off multiple devices. And where does work fit in with that, right? So that's a change in mindset of end users, and we can see that to continue to develop. And the other issue too is, there's an app for everything now, and there's many jokes about the different types of apps you can do for almost anything. But essentially what's happening is you as an IT organization, you're challenged with delivering a service or an application to enable a business outcome. And there are three core changes that are happening in terms of applications. Applications are moving to bite-sized chunks. They're narrowly focused chunks of capability rather than wide systems that do a lot of different things. The delivery model's changing. So, there's web-based development, HTML5, that's accelerating development time and changing the user experience. And most importantly, the pricing model's changing. So users have an expectation that software is almost, free. And they can try it, and if they don't like it, well, they can throw it away again. They'll use something else. So once again, there's a mindset change in the end users. So, forecasts indicate that mobile apps are going to outnumber PC-based apps by a ratio of 4-to-1 within 3 years. So by 2015, there'll be 4 times as many apps available for people to download and try and throw away as there will be PC-based applications. So that's quite a change, isn't it? So really what we're talking about is opportunity versus risk. It's about balancing the expectation of reliable, secure, dependable corporate IT with an end user's ability to have freedom and choice around what they use. And if you get that wrong, it can be really wrong. But if you get it right, well, there's some really good opportunities. So we're just going to look very quickly at the opportunity risks, and then my colleagues later on will delve into some of the examples around that. So just in terms of opportunities, if we get this stuff right, and we've seen some examples of where people are getting this right, we will empower a much more productive workforce. You'll enable your end users to work where they want to, how they want to, when they want to, and at the same time, you'll be able to keep some control on your data and your intellectual property. You can differentiate your workforce. You make your staff more productive. You can make it a more attractive proposition or workplace for new employees, and ultimately give a better experience to your customers. And then there's the risks. So these are the ones that we're really sort of quite concerned about at the moment. If you think of, as I said before, keeping your eyes open to what these risks are, as end users get the flexibility that they're asking for, you run the risk of your corporate information now being on multiple devices, and they may not be secure. So you have to have real thought about how to manage the new security threats, addressing the digital identity management issues, the perimeter security, the data loss prevention, and the social engineering that goes with the social networking tools that end users are using too. And secondly, there's a risk of losing control over managing the flow of information. That's something else that we don't always think about, the business process changes that might occur. An example of where this is where an end user, as I said before, just decides to use Dropbox to store company information, right? So that changes the flow. And finally, we need to think about the control and manage the pace of change. Many firms aren't even aware of the real number of devices that people are bringing into the workplace to start with. So just understanding what's occurring in your environment is one thing to note as a risk. So just finally on my part on this, just what we're here for really is to deliver business value, right? That's our role in an IT organisation. And as I mentioned, the outset, this is all about really delivering a really good user experience to an end user, and how do you enable that? And that's because everything really that IT delivers needs to be there to help staff do their job and make them effective and productive in what they're doing. So we need really good end user experience to think about that and how that turns up. We need to make sure we have the really good reliable connectivity to make that available to them, and also the right kind of applications with the right sort of environment that helps them enable that. So that's all I had to say on that part. I hope that gave you a little bit of context of where we're thinking from a strategy perspective of how this is turning out for our end users.